In this video, we will learn how to add a new receipt payment type to the system, as well as remove a pay type that is no longer used. This task should only be performed by an office manager or a controller, and the effects on the system will be immediate. Please do not attempt to add any payment method unless you have proper authorization. Alright, our practice dealership has decided to add a payment method for American Express. To do this, we must enter the new payment method on the drop-down list setup. First, click on Accounting at the top of your screen, then put your mouse over Chart of Accounts. This will activate the Chart of Accounts submenu, at which time you can slide your mouse over to the submenu and click on Drop-down List Setup. The drop-down List Setup controls menus for several areas of the program. In this case, we are only interested in the receipt type setup, located under Accounting. Click on Accounting, which will activate the drop-down, and then click on Receipt Types. Now that we have opened the window, there are several important things to remember. The first is that you should never ever remove a payment method from this list. We will look at how to prevent the pay types from appearing amongst your choices on cash receipts, but removing a line will cause problems with depositing and reporting, and it should never be done. Secondly, do not change any of the receipt codes. The codes are what tie payment methods to receipts, and a change to the code could cause significant problems with your historical data. Once you get into edit mode, if you are concerned you have made a mistake, simply click Cancel to abort all changes. First, let's add the payment type for American Express. Click Edit, and then look to the blank row at the bottom of the list, where your cursor should have gone. Begin by typing a unique receipt type description. We'll just call this American Express. I'll continue across the row by hitting Tab and entering a code of AMEX. The debit and credit accounts represent the accounts that will fill into the accounting lines automatically when this pay method is used. For this example, I will use a debit account of 2005, and I will leave the credit account blank. This means that when I create a $100 receipt for American Express and click OK, a line for a debit of $100 to account 2005 will drop into the accounting line list, but I will have to manually determine the credit account and key the appropriate line. Tabbing to the RO payment type column, put a Y in if you would like this payment type to show up in the service and parts distribution setup. Tab again and enter a Y if you only want this to show up in service and not when creating a cash receipt. We will leave both of these fields blank. Another tab allows us to distinguish which location the payment method applies to. We will choose location 1. Drawer is not a column that is used. Tabbing through that lands us in the Control column, which, along with Control 2, dictates the control which will be assigned to the line if it is selected. Keep in mind that this Control and Control 2 will apply to both the debit and credit line if both are used. I am going to put Test in for the Control and Test 2 in for the Control 2, and tab one more time to move to the next line. Now let's assume that this payment method is replacing the one above it, Credit Cards 2. In order to make Credit Cards 2 not show up for those creating receipts, just make sure that the RO payment type field is blank, and then put a Y in the RO CT only column. This says that the pay method is available only in service, but also says that it is not a service payment type, effectively rendering it invisible. We will say OK to accept these changes and then close the window. Now let's see if our payment method is available for use. Open the Receipts window and begin a receipt. Clicking the drop-down for payment method should reveal our newly created American Express payment method as an option, and Credit Cards 2 should be nowhere to be found. Congratulations, you have inserted a new payment method for cash receipts.